Hi, this is Dave Hamilton from the Impact Exchange, a world housing podcast. In this podcast, we talk to business leaders and entrepreneurs about the impact that they've made globally with their work with world housing. We talk about what makes them tick, we talk about their successes, and we talk about their struggles. We'd love to hear any of your comments, so please leave them below and we'll respond to everybody. Thank you, and please enjoy the first episode with Rick Mann from the Mannkind Foundation. Thank you.
Carrying on the legacy from my father's generation to my generation, now to the next generation, right? To really instill that responsibility that you need. If you have the means to do something, you have to go do it. There's no question about it. You have to go do it.
How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah.
Okay, so we got an 18-hour flight. You coming in from Vancouver?
From Vancouver, yeah. So it was like 14 hours from here to Taiwan.
Yeah.
Then we had an 8-hour layover with an 8-year-old. That was fun. Then another.
You had the iPad was on full effect?
Yeah, it was helpful. It was really helpful. The universal adapters to keep the charge prime. Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Yeah. You're Vancouver based, right? Yeah. Just tell me a little bit about your background.
Born and raised in the Lower Mainland all my life. My parents are both first-generation immigrants. I'm pretty much as Canadian as anybody could be. Kind of grew up in the whole East-West kind of household where my parents were kind of one of the first of their generation to kind of want to be Westernized, right? So, but there was a heavily Eastern influence in our upbringing as well, but not really in your face.
Well, what is your nationality?
Well, I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're more of your background, I guess, from your parents.
My parents are both from India, northern India. So they've seen a lot of hardship, and I think what prompted their move was to see that there was opportunity out in Canada, and they had the means to get out and start a new life for themselves. And I couldn't be more grateful. I grew up never wanting for food, clothing, nutrition, education. I always had the best of the best, whatever they could afford. I never knew any different growing up until I became an adult and realized what my parents had to sacrifice to give us those opportunities, what they continue to sacrifice today to give us those opportunities. And I've been super grateful.
At what point did you notice that or you recognize that your parents had that hardship? How did you learn about it?
Through business, probably. Once I realized, once you start hearing some stories, right? And there was actually, it wasn't my father, but it was somebody else who had a conversation from my father's generation. And, we were right after the 08-09 crisis, the financial hardships. And he had this conversation with this gentleman from my father's generation and talking about how crappy the real estate was, how absolutely doom and gloom it was. And he stopped this guy in his tracks. He says, listen, I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever known anybody to starve to death? And the guy from Canada, I was born here, so grew up on the west side. So, no, I haven't. He's like, that's where I come from. I come from a country where it was very likely that 1 in 10 people that you knew died of starvation. That's desperation. That's bleak. That's as bad as it can be. This, not so bad, right? So to understand that that was the type of lifestyle that my father came from, and that's what he had to escape to come out here. I mean, everything was gravy after that. But, it wasn't easy for him as a first-generation immigrant Indian kid in the 70s. That was tough. It was really tough. And, growing up, you hear stories of his upbringing and he had some brush-ins with the HA at 16. That grows you up pretty quick. So, yeah. But you hear those stories not when you're young, but you hear those kind of, when I was in my teens, kind of adolescence, puberty kind of thing, starting to hear these stories, starting to get invited to hear these stories, you know what I mean? And I had a lot of appreciation for what he went through to give us a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So as we sit here in Cambodia for 10 years of world housing, How long have you been? How long has World Housing been on your radar, and how did you get involved?
World Housing has been on our radar for the last, I want to say right before COVID. So it was 2018, 2019. So it's been about 5-6 years now. Don came into our office to do a presentation, and he kind of told that story when he was talking about everybody, where he basically sat down, knew a little bit about who we are. We were in the land development game, and we did pretty well for ourselves over the last 3 years. And there my father was sitting, and we have this one wall that's kind of dedicated to our own charitable endeavors, right? We have our own charitable society called Mannkind Charitable Society.
Great name, by the way.
Yeah. Well, my father's
Like it's so on brand.
yeah, it's so on brand. Yeah. Maybe not ESG appropriate anymore, but people kind. People kind. But on this one wall, we kind of outlined some of his initiatives that he's done, and one was there's a couple photos there. About 0809 is when the charity started, and my father and I went on a trek and we did a 3-week backpacking expedition across India to find orphanages to partner up with. Right. So, and how was I? I was 21, 22 at the time. I just joined the company. I was a hothead myself. I was not interested in being, calm and woosah about learning more about my father. My father had just taken on this venture. He had taken a spiritual kind of turn in his life, and decided there was more to life that he needed to explore, more to life than just making money. Felt like he almost had a responsibility to all the good graces that had blessed him. So in 0809, we started this charity. We traveled across India. We found 3 orphanages to partner up with. We sponsored not just their food, clothing, education, but also their extracurriculars, which we thought was kind of important. So we allowed them the opportunity to express themselves in music and sport and dance and things like that. So there was this wall behind my dad as Don was kind of talking. He tells a story about how he was in the middle of his spiel. I'm not going to say sales pitch, but it was kind of like a sales pitch. And he kind of was like, what am I doing? Like, this guy already gets it, right? And my father, it was really interesting. Of all the causes, it's kind of like, you get hit up from a lot of different ways for, donate to this cause or that cause. And they're all fantastic causes in their own right. But it's only those couple that kind of pull at those heart sensitivities. And as an observer, I always thought it was interesting that the first initiative my father wanted to address was orphans. So what was that? My father himself was not an orphan, but what about that experience, drew him to that? And I feel like him moving here to Canada at the age of 14, having almost an orphan-like experience in his own right, where he came as a sponsor of his older sister, but at the age of 16, he was kind of kicked out. And 16, like there was one night he talks about sleeping under Terminal Street Bridge at one point of his life, right? So I feel like the journey of an orphan kind of really was pulling at the sensitivity of my father. So when you talk about the opportunity to build a village in Cambodia for young girls in tough situations, it was a no-brainer. It was the easiest sell I think Don probably ever had in his entire life. Yeah.
That's all the sort of everything sort of coming together there, right? Your dad having that that sort of I would almost say like a need to be able to give, and where do you give, and what organization do I give with, and I'm sure if you have some sort of success, that you do have people kind of coming at you from all directions, and it's like where do you put your efforts, and being able to the housing thing is you're not just giving money to a, and I'm not trying to pump up World Housing here. I'm just like in my own brain, like we were talking about it today. It's like you're not just like cutting a check to UNICEF or whatever it may be. You're giving somebody a home, and the next day they wake up and they have that home, and then their kids have kids, and their kids are in that home, right?
I always tell people, if we were doctors, we'd be volunteering with Doctors Without Borders. But we've done housing for the last 30 years, so we know housing. So it totally fits within our wheelhouse. And, even just from my perspective, it's dumb luck. It's dumb luck I was born to the family I was born into and to the country I was born into. And the flip side of that coin is people born into situations they had no control over. So what's the difference between me and some poor child in Cambodia? Sure. Nothing, just dumb luck. So even for myself, I feel like I owe it to, like, I have a responsibility. If I've been blessed with the means to have some form of success, even just being born into the situation, I owe it to the people who didn't, to give them a chance. At least at a safe home, a safe place, right?
Yeah, it's powerful, right? To be able to have that, like you say owe it to them, but it's like, you have an opportunity to give, right? And it's like, you know. So tomorrow you were unable to do any sort of ceremony because of good old COVID, right? So you have yet to see your girls' grannies, correct?
Yes, the Mannkind girls and grannies, yeah.
Love it. And so tomorrow you get to see this for the first time.
Yeah.
And you brought your daughter with you,
I brought my daughter, yeah.
right? What are you expecting? Like, you're going to see people who've lived there for a certain amount of time, and this is their home, this is their community, right? This isn't just a house. This is like a village or a community, right?
It's a fantastic legacy project for our family. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna hide around that. To have been a small part of World Housing and CCF's initiative to deliver this kind of housing in this country, we are so blessed to just be part of that team. You mentioned my daughter. I thought it was so cool, that my daughter said she wanted to come, and it was a big deal. We just told her a little bit about it. We told her a little bit about the girls who grannies. My kids have also lived a very blessed lifestyle as well. They've never kind of been exposed to a lot of adversity in their life either. They kind of don't know how the other half of the world, other 99% of the world really lives. So when she learned a little bit about it and she jumped at the opportunity to wanting to come and see it, I couldn't have been more proud of her. And for her to be 8 years old herself, she is at a point in her life where she's writing a story about what the world is and what the world is not. And to have this opportunity at this age to experience something together, because I'm experiencing this for the first time too. It's not a lot of time that a parent and a child get to experience something together for the first time. It's usually the parents have been around it a couple times, and now we get to teach the kids. But I'm pretty much, when you ask what to expect, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what the reception is going to be like. I don't know what the situation is going to be like. But we are super grateful to be part of it. To be honest, just kind of like today, I've been here as a spectator to my daughter, and I've been observing her. And this is a part about her growth and carrying on the legacy from my father's generation to my generation, now to the next generation, right? To really instill that responsibility that you need. If you have the means to do something, you have to go do it. There's no question about it. You have to go do it. And I think for her to have this experience at this age, in this location, I don't know. I'm really hoping it resonates with her, and I think it will.
Yeah, 8, right? My son's 7. I know women generally mature faster than boys. I think that's just a proven fact. But for her to be able to, I heard about like the vaccine, her being nervous about getting the vaccine.
Yeah, that was a funny story. Yeah, so I mean, we got the email from Sam saying, "Oh, you might want to check on the vaccinations," and I really didn't think twice about it. So I found a local clinic that did some vaccinations, and we booked it. I booked it for Saturday, thinking I'd have time to do it, and it was like Saturday 1:00, and I was like, "Oh crap, we missed the appointment." And so we got up quickly, and I didn't even tee up my daughter. I just grabbed her. I'm like, we got to go somewhere. She's like, "Where are we going?" I was like, "I have to go get a shot." And she was like, "Absolutely not." All right. So we went to we eventually got there, and she allowed us to have a meeting with the nurse, and she went through all the vaccinations we had to do, and I did them first. It was no problem. And watching my daughter kind of go back and forth, she was terrified, absolutely terrified to get the vaccinations. And she's 8 years old. I get it. And I didn't do her a favor by just rushing her and not telling her what we were going for either. I didn't do her a favor. I didn't even prep her. Yeah, I did a terrible parenting job. But you could see the anguish in herself, just battling the fear of not taking the vaccinations against not being able to see these girls. Do you know what I mean? It was such a battle for her, and we weren't able to do it that first Saturday. She can't, right? So again, I actually had to apologize to her later. We didn't do the vaccinations that day. We rescheduled. And I had to come back and I had to apologize to her. I said, what we did to you was totally not fair. We didn't give you a chance to prepare yourself. We didn't give you a chance to tell you what it was for or why we needed it. So now we're taking the chance to tell you, right? So we rescheduled for the Tuesday. And every night, and I like to put my kids to sleep, her and I would have about a 1 hour conversation about the fear that she was having, right? And I told, she has her ear pierced. I said, ear pierced hurt way more than getting a shot, but she was just deathly afraid. And I get it. It's a scary situation. And she finally, she would just break down and cry. She's like, Dad, I just want to be brave for the girls. I want to be brave for the girls. And I committed that I was going to go, and I don't want to disappoint them. And lo and behold, that Tuesday came and went. She took them like a champ, and we're here. And I couldn't be more proud.
That's pretty amazing. Where do you think she gets this? Like, clearly she's got this brave. She's got this sort of want to like learn, and she's like processing. Like is that from her mom? Is that from you? Is this from dad or granddad? Like where's it coming from?
I gotta give that credit to my Eastern European wife. So, my wife came from Serbia, and she was Muslim in Serbia. So her country went through genocide and ethnic cleansing, and her family left in 1999. So she was no stranger to war refugees and the causes and the plights. So I think even my children have had front row examples from my wife taking on a very active role in what she feels is justice and not justice, and having a lot of pressure from people to do the right thing. So if you ask me, where does she get it from? As much as I want to take credit for it, I have to give my wife all the credit for instilling those values and those characteristics.
And early too, right? Like my son is 7, and I want to be able to bring him on these things. I know he'll be able to absorb it. I don't think he would ever absorb it quite that as early as your daughter has. So it's amazing that she's here to be able to like experience this. Because come on, like really, who gets to but who gets this opportunity? Like it's pretty amazing that you're actually bringing her here and exposing her to this. That's like props to you. Right?
Well, happy to. And that's what I said, if you have the means to, then you almost have a responsibility to, right?
I know there's a generational thing within your foundation. And you have your dad, and you have you, and you have your daughter, and it's like all so close together. And it's like, I think it's a beautiful thing that you're doing. And I think you should be very proud of what's happening here, and I'm excited to see how tomorrow goes for you, and I'm excited to see how she reacts to it and absorbs it, even now and later, right? Because you process things, right? It takes you months.
She's super nervous. She is super nervous. So
Let's bring her out here.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. All right.
Your knee.
Okay.
Yeah. That was good. All right.
Give me a minute.
We have all the action going on. So sit up with your dad there, because he's mic'd up, so we're gonna have to hear you. So, how you doing?
I'm really excited. Yeah.
Are you a little bit nervous?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. How come?
I don't know. I've just never seen them before, and I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing coming over and doing these things over the last 10 years is kids are kids. Kids are kids everywhere. Whether they have wealth or whether they don't, they're kids, and they want to have fun. They want to kick the soccer ball around. They want to play with dolls. They want to do all that stuff, right? So I think you're gonna. I think it's gonna be a great experience for you. What do you think about when you come home from this and your friends at school are asking you what happened?
I'm gonna tell them all the good things.
Yeah. Are you proud of your daddy for doing this? Yeah. Tell me how proud you are of your daddy.
Like a 7.
It's pretty good, actually. Yeah, she's a tough customer. Seven's a solid. It's a solid one.
That's pretty good. What would you, if you had other friends your age, what would you tell them about this experience when you haven't experienced it yet? But I want to see, like, you're really brave for coming here. I think your friends are going to think you're pretty cool for doing this. How does that feel? Like
Feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, I thank you for taking the time. I know it's not easy to sit in front of a camera, but you're actually a bit of a natural, if I'm being honest. Okay. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Okay. Now go get some rest. All right. All right.
Thank you, guys.